But we are interrupting your programming now to bring you the very latest from the city of Austin on the power outages and, more importantly for many, the water issues we're facing all across Austin and Travis County and other counties surrounding the Austin area. City officials holding a virtual news conference in just a few minutes from now. Let's take a look now. Have they started? Let's go ahead and listen and see if they've begun. If not, we'll come back and have some other information for you. Sounds like they have not. Let me just bring this. As we leave this on the screen, I'm just going to give you a little information as we wait for them to begin the press conference. You can see some city officials are about to begin that press conference, and we'll bring that to you again live right here on KVUE. I do want to update you, though, on the power numbers we're getting. That number of outages has dropped significantly today, down to about 8% of Austin Energy customers now without power. That equates to about 41,000 affected customers. That's not people, that's customers. So the number of people affected still great, but that number has gone down significantly today. We're expected to get an update on energy today and an update on the water today. You can see who's there. City officials with Austin, both Austin Energy, Austin Water, the city manager I see there. So we'll have an update that as soon as that begins. We're going to bring that to you live. We're also expecting today to hear from Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He's going to give us a statewide assessment of how things stand power-wise. We know across the area, those numbers of outages have gone down significantly. That's true for other major metropolitan areas, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, also seeing a severe decrease in the number of outages in their cities. Now, the water issue is the big problem, and I'm hearing from a lot of you this morning about having certain water issues, and those aren't going to go away in the next few hours, maybe even couple of days. We'll have to wait and see what Austin Water says for the city of Austin. But I know surrounding areas are having these difficulties as well with water and pressure issues and boil water notices. We know the entire city of Austin is currently under a boil water notice. So we're going to update you on that as soon as
each of our speakers to unmute.
Let's go now and listen in.
It was their turn. Here to speak to you today will be Austin City Manager Spencer Cronk, Austin Water Director Greg Massaros, Austin Energy General Manager Jackie Sargent, Austin Fire Department Assistant Chief Brandon Wade, Austin Public Works Department Director Richard Mendoza, Homeland Security and Emergency Management Director Juan Ortiz, and Capital Metro CEO Randy Clark. When our speakers have concluded, today's pool reporter Jennifer Sanders from KXAN will ask questions on behalf of the media. But first, I'd like to turn things over to City Manager Spencer Cronk. Spencer?
Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. The purpose of today's briefing is to provide an update regarding weather events and our response. We strive to provide our community with timely information and recognize that things are changing on an ongoing basis. This has been challenging, and we continue to work to keep you informed and manage your expectations. Before we jump into the updates, I want to let our community know that we are all working around the clock to get our community recovered from this unprecedented event that has gripped our entire state and frustrated and impacted all of us in so many ways. I don't have to tell you this. This storm is stressing our entire community in ways we have never experienced. Normally, we can lean on surrounding communities for support and aid, but they are experiencing the same dire situation that we are. I know we have asked you repeatedly to be patient, and we continue to make that ask of you. We are also so sorry for the continued hardships that so many in our community have had to endure in recent days. We are hopeful that temperatures will rise above freezing starting in the next few days, but until that happens, we are working on getting resources that can help you, because we know this storm has significantly impacted each one of you. For shelters and warming centers, the Palmer Center is now at full capacity and can't accept any more people in need of shelter. But there is still limited room at Del Valley High School at 5201 Ross Road in Del Valley, Mendez Middle School at 5106 Village Square, and Riley Elementary School at 405 Jensen. There are also other shelter sites. The Austin Disaster Relief Network has activated a network of faith-based locations to operate as shelters. But these locations are not equipped with full services, and people accessing those locations should bring supplies and blankets. Churches that are part of that network with ADRN can be found by visiting their websites at adrn.org. Shelters. We continue to ask those who are able to shelter at home safely to do so and allow the most vulnerable in the community to access these shelters. We want to thank our partners over at the Austin Independent School District. They have set up warming centers that will provide individuals a place to warm up and charge essential medical devices. These warm-up centers will operate from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and they will not operate as overnight shelters and will only have minimal resources on site. They are at Lee Elementary School, which is in central Austin at 3308 Hampton Road, Merchant Middle School at 3700 North Hills Drive, Jocelyn Elementary School at 4500 Menchaca Road, and Barrington Elementary at 400 Cooper Drive. For individuals who are unable to shelter in place and must travel to one of the shelters listed above due to medical necessity, please contact 311 to arrange transportation. You can also email COA emergency rides at austintexas.gov. That's COA emergency rides, one word, at austintexas.gov, and provide your name, phone number, address, and number of people needing transport and medical needs. I want to remind everyone that transportation resources are extremely limited, and we're asking to reserve this resource again for our most vulnerable population, especially those who require power for their medical devices. Until the roads are safe to be on, we are urging folks to stay home as much as possible and keep the roadways clear and safe for our first responders seeking shelter. Again, if you have a life-threatening emergency, please call Austin 911. Now, curbside trash and recycling collection will start on Friday, February 19th, weather permitting for those scheduled on Friday, although the crews may take longer than usual to get because of road conditions. Before I turn it over to Director Greg Mazzaros for an update on Austin Water, I do want to take a moment to thank our City of Austin workforce. They have worked tirelessly day in and day out. I also want to thank our community. We know that you are tired as well and frustrated. We cannot thank you enough for your help and continued patience as we all weather this storm.
Thank you, City Manager. I now turn things over to Austin Water Director, Greg Mazzaros.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Greg Mazzaros, Director of Austin Water, and want to provide you some input today. Let me say, I want to echo the City Manager's words that we're sorry for the hardships people are experiencing with the water system. We never imagined a day where hospitals wouldn't have water, large segments of our customer base wouldn't have water, and we're committed to restoring our system as safely and rapidly as we can. We have a plan, and we're working the plan, and conditions will improve every day, but we have a lot of hard work ahead of us to ultimately get our system back in full working order. I thought I might say a few minutes, talk a few minutes on our plan and what we're doing. Yesterday, we had reported that our Ulrich treatment plant, which is our largest plant, had experienced an electrical disruption and was out of service. I'm pleased to say that that plant's now back in service with the help and support of Austin Energy. We were able to correct that electrical problem, and Ulrich is ramping back up for water production today, and so that's a positive sign for us. Our plan really involves two phases. The first phase is we have to restore pressure to our system. Because of all the water main breaks, the private burst pipes, and the increased water use, the water in our reservoirs essentially drained out over the last day. And that stabilizes the system, that provides pressure. We have to bring those reservoirs back up to service. That's going to take time. Our reservoirs store almost 100 million gallons of water. That's about 1 day's water use of Austin. And at the low point, they were all nearly empty. So we have to bring those back up, and we have to check the transmission infrastructure, the water mains that serve those reservoirs. we have to find some of these leaks that cause water to drain out of our system during the height of the cold snap. If we simply try to turn the system back on everywhere and don't check for leaks and do this in a methodical way, we'll simply repeat what happened the other night where all the water drains out of our system. So we have to work this in a methodical, detailed way. Once we stabilize the system, can demonstrate that it has adequate pressure, we can begin the process of sampling the water, testing it for bacteriological, and clearing those systems. We're working with the state of Texas to help us expedite those processes of clearing our system and bringing it back into service. So everyone is assisting us in that regard. I will encourage customers to continue to conserve water. If you have water service at your home or business, please use it wisely and in a moderate way. If water returns to your home or business, please, again, don't go overboard and start using too much water. Please be very thoughtful. The water you use is water that another customer may not have. And so let's all work together to continue to conserve. It is making a difference. I was looking at the numbers today and our demand on the system, the amount of water that the system needs versus how much we're making. We are seeing a lower demand relative to the amount of water we can produce. So that's exactly the balance that we want. We want to be able to make more water than the system is using, and then we can refill these reservoirs, we can check for leaks, and we can start to restore service to a broader segment of our community. And I would say also our priority is reestablishing service to our hospitals and our key healthcare centers. We know that those are the #1 goals, and that is top of mind for us as we work through this process. And so thank you, and that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much, Director Mazeros, for those remarks. We now turn things over to Austin Energy General Manager, Jackie Sargent. Jackie?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jackie Sargent, and I'm the General Manager for Austin Energy. This weather event and associated power outages have left this state and this community absolutely devastated. Like many of you, we can't wait for the snow and the ice to melt and the power to be restored. There is some promising news. Austin Energy's focus is on restoring our remaining customers who have been without power. While we had nearly 220,000 customers without power at the height of the mandated ERCOT-controlled outages on Tuesday morning, the situation is improving, and Austin Energy has been able to restore power to tens of thousands of our customers. And these efforts are ongoing. Our crews, our team will not stop until every household, every customer has had power restored. Currently, ERCOT is not mandating outages and has allowed us to work through the night and into today to energize numerous circuits and get the power flowing. As weather conditions continue to change, it is possible ERCOT may have to mandate more outages, but we will take every effort to restore these as quickly as possible. And as long as the requirement isn't too excessive, we will be able to utilize rotating outages until the power can be fully restored. Our crews are out in the community. They are working around the clock to safely restore households as quickly as possible. And they are prioritizing customers that have been out the longest. So some customers with shorter outages may see their power come back on as part of this process. Because there is so much work to be done, unfortunately, I can't give you a firm answer on when your power will be back. I truly wish that I could. Some of you have seen your power come back on and then go off again, and there are a few reasons for this. Just like Greg Mazzaros talked about Austin Water System, we have to do this work carefully. If we power everyone back up at the same time, we'll overload the system and trip everything off. So just like we shut the system down in sections, we have to restore the system in sections. And this can take time. And as we're working, it can reveal other issues that need to be addressed and fixed before full restoration can occur. Wednesday's ice storm brought more hazards to our system. some of which are being recognized or are not being recognized until we're allowed to re-energize circuits, and then they show up. Additionally, ice creates unique safety challenges for our field crews. Ice we're seeing many things. We're seeing ice on vegetation. So restoring power isn't just flipping a switch in this cold weather. Ice adds additional weight to the tree limbs, forcing branches to break or lean into power lines, causing outages. Even with our vegetation management that we do on a regular basis, the area's vegetation or greenery can affect electric service, especially in these extreme conditions. Ice also builds up on power lines, adding additional weight to the lines. And a half of an inch of ice can add as much as 500 pounds to a power line, causing that line to break. Ice also builds up on other electrical system equipment, creating challenges to operating it. During a typical outage, it may be possible for a crew to isolate sections of a line quickly to restore power to more customers. During an ice storm, crews need to first remove the ice from the equipment before they can begin to safely make repairs, and this can add time to our restoration areas for those areas of our system that are affected. Finally, I know you don't want to hear anything other than everyone is going to get their power back on, and it's going to happen right now. I wish that bringing everyone back online was as easy as flipping a switch or pushing a button, but it's not. So I want to take this opportunity to thank our crews and employees behind the scenes who have been working tirelessly during this entire extreme weather emergency. I'm going to continue to ask the public to give them space and to let them do their jobs safely. We will continue to work to safely restore power until everyone has their service back on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General Manager Sargent, for those remarks. We're now going to turn things over to Austin Fire Department Assistant Chief, Brandon Wade, for an update. Brandon, please feel free to unmute and come into the conversation.
Good afternoon. I'm Brandon Wade with the Austin Fire Department. And as many others have echoed, I want to thank the citizens out there that have been so patient and understanding during these trying times as we work to restore power and utilities and also serve the 911 emergencies that come in. The Austin Fire Department has responded to thousands of calls during these times for service, and our men and women have worked tirelessly and countless hours doing that. We will continue to do this, just as we have always done, to continue the emergency services to our community. A couple of items we would like to note and ensure that the public understands to help us with is, one, the threat and the hazard of carbon monoxide. We have responded to numerous calls as people are trying to stay warm in their homes, in which they are burning materials, not in fireplaces, but in containers and other devices inside a home. The dangers of that is not only the carbon monoxide, but also the risk and the hazard of causing a fire. We are urging the public to only use those approved fireplaces that are working in their residence, to only burn either the approved fire logs or firewood, and not any other type of combustibles. Again, the dangers of that is not only the possible fire hazard that it creates, but also the carbon monoxide. We also would like to cover some of the items with if there is a fire in your residence or in your apartment building. We're asking the public to call 911 immediately upon seeing the fire. Due to the road conditions that we're experiencing all over this area, response times can be slowed down as our crews are trying to make it through the snow and the ice to reach the addresses. So as you see smoke and fire, please dial 911 immediately and notify us. Do not wait or expect that somebody else has already done that until you see a fire truck on scene. We ask that you not use the elevators. Many buildings do not have power, and power sometimes may go off due to the emergencies and the challenges that the utility companies are having. So please use the stairs and exit the structure immediately and wait for the arrival of the fire department. And lastly, know your exit path. Know how to get yourself out of your residence or the building. It is extremely important that everybody tries to evacuate before the fire department gets there to help us out so we can address the emergency. We'd also like to talk about the water leaks and the water line breaks that are occurring. We understand with the freezing temperatures that pipes are bursting in residents and buildings. These have created challenges across the city and across the county. Again, the fire department has responded to thousands of these, and we are here to still respond to those. However, due to the amount, the response can be delayed to some of these. It is important that you know where your water shutoff is. So if a pipe does break, you're able to shut the water off to your house or to the appliance that is leaking. Also, if you're in an apartment or a building, it is advisable to contact your management and talk to them and get a contact number for the management so that they can quickly come to your building and try to shut the water off as well to not only limit damage, but also keeping from all of your belongings being wet. Again, the fire department will continue to respond through this emergency, and we're here to serve you. The public safety agencies in the city and in the county have been working tirelessly, and they will continue to help the citizens through this emergency. I want to thank you all again for your understanding and your patience.
Assistant Chief Wade, thank you so much for that important information from Austin Fire. We now turn things over to Austin Public Works Director Richard Mendoza, who's joining us by phone. Richard, please unmute and come into the conversation.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Richard, would you like to try again?
Let me try again. Hello, everyone. Richard Mendoza, Public Works Director. Public Works crews have been working in 2 rotating 12-hour shifts, 24 hours a day since this past Saturday evening when we first started getting some freezing precip in our city. And these crews consist of over 70 personnel that have been engaged in treating icy conditions initially on many of our bridges and overpasses. They also mobilized to assist the Austin ABIA airport to clear taxiways and runways to get that facility reopened this week, and then have now transitioned their focus into treating and clearing a number of identified high priority routes throughout our city. Of those, we have worked with our transportation department and identified 196 lane miles of priority routes throughout our city. Of those, we have cleared 118 lane miles, or approximately 60%, and we have remaining 78 lane miles to address between now and tomorrow morning or midday. We've also treated a number of bridges and elevated structures I mentioned previously, a total of 26, some retreated numerous times, 3 and 4 times, since these structures are more vulnerable to icy conditions. And they also include some TxDOT facilities on I-35 downtown, as well as MOPAC, which our city relies on quite heavily to access critical life safety services. Of those 70 crew members, we also were assisted from staff from Austin Transportation Department, as well as the Watershed Protection Department with some additional crew members and equipment. And so our equipment right now stands at 8 sanding spreaders. We have 9 dump trucks, 3 motor graders, which are the road working equipment with blades suitable to removing snow and ice, and 6 front-end loaders. We've also brought on yesterday 3 emergency contracts to get contractors to assist us in clearing those high priority roads throughout our city. Unfortunately, we do not have any snow plows per se, but between the front end loaders and the motor graders and the contract work, we are confident that we can complete those high priority routes overnight and still respond to the emergency calls that come to us through our EOC to do hotspot treatments in areas of critical care facilities such as hospitals, fire EMS stations. We've also been engaged to refuel generators throughout the city and provide escort services to Cap Metro for those folks that need transport to some of those warming centers. We will treat the routes ahead of their buses. I do want to state that, you know, while we are treating these roads, we're treating only one lane in each direction so that we can get complete. It's still a little dicey out there. If you must travel, you know, we cannot emphasize enough that you follow some certain safety tips. Try and restrict your travel to the daytime hours. We expect any precip that did not evaporate today to refreeze overnight. Try and avoid overpasses and use extreme caution on elevated roadways and bridges if you must transfer those facilities. If you have access to vehicles, of course, with four-wheel drive or a heavier SOV, those work a little better in the frozen precip than small cars. Please take it slow. Be aware that our roadway visibility can be impaired by frozen windshields. And please treat all flashing and dark traffic signals throughout the city as four-way stops, no matter which direction you may be traveling on. So that completes my report. Thank you very much.
Director Mendoza, thank you for that important information on road conditions and safety information from Public Works. We now like to turn things over to the Director of the City of Austin's Homeland Security and Emergency Management Department, Director Juan Ortiz, who is joining us from the Austin-Travis County Emergency Operations Center. Juan, please feel free to unmute.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Juan Ortiz. I'm the Director for Homeland Security and Emergency Management with the City of Austin. This is truly unprecedented situation for our area, but we have hundreds of dedicated staff, members of partner organizations, and volunteers working 24 hours a day to provide service to the community and to solve problems. The Austin-Travis County Emergency Operations Center has been responding to this incident since last week and has been supporting an increasingly demanding scope as the situation evolves. We are supporting multiple shelters across the community being operated in partnership with the Austin Independent School District and other volunteer organizations. These shelters have food, cots, pillows, blankets, and other personal items. In addition, shelters operated by the Austin Disaster Relief Network can be found on their website at https://adrn.org/shelters. We understand that in this dynamic situation, the new concern is water for the community. I can tell you water has been purchased and on the way. As soon as we are able, we will begin to distribute in the community. However, our situation is not unique to other cities, and other cities have similar needs, which has required us to purchase water out of state. So it will take time for it to be delivered. As soon as we receive any water from local sources, we are going to address the most vulnerable in our community. Additionally, we are supporting multiple initiatives providing services to the community, including efforts to decompress hospital capacity, provide transportation, provide food and water, provide fuel to necessary infrastructure, and other critical missions to ensure the safety of the community. We could not achieve this level of response without the incredibly dedicated staff, many who have been living in this facility and other facilities for days away from their families. But we also have to acknowledge our government partners like Travis County, the Austin Independent School District, Capital Metro, and the Austin Community College. Lastly, our partners with the American Red Cross and the Austin Disaster Relief Network have been integral in our response.
Director Ortiz, thank you so much for that update. We'd now like to hear an update on our transit situation. Joining us is Capital Metro CEO Randy Clark. He's joining us by phone. Mr. Clark, please feel free to unmute and join the conversation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to take a quick moment and reiterate what Spencer said right at the start of this briefing. We're all working 24/7 to support the community through this. Really, it's an unprecedented is used word, but it's a set of emergencies that have kind of compounded upon each other. As everyone on this call has said, and I'll reiterate again as well, we thank you so much, community, for your understanding and patience. As we know, you're all, just like us, are frustrated, cold, and tired. I think this call, though, highlights our critical infrastructure partnership and shows everyone working together to resolve these ongoing emergencies. To that end, today, Capital Metro has resumed limited service from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. This service is truly for critical trips, and our frequencies are significantly limited as well. We're working to get real-time information out there to our customers about these routes, times, etc. Some of our trip planners are having a hard time keeping up with the new schedules, but we ask everyone to go to capmetro.org/winter to see what routes are operating. The best way to get information, though, is our Capital Metro Go line, which is 512-474-1200. I'll repeat, Capital Metro Go line at 512-474-1200. We understand that from time to time our app, our trip planner may have some technical difficulties, but that phone number is staffed, and we are increasing staffing to make sure that we can provide as accurate information as possible. Earlier this week, we also said when service does come back, all fares are waived. So that's to get everyone on and off the vehicles as fast as possible, make it safe, keep people out of the cold, and so there'll be no fares for the remaining of the week. And please remember that all COVID-19 precautions are still in place, specifically requirement for a mask. Today, we actually exceeded our staffing expectation, and I want to really just highlight we had over 100 bus operators report to duty. And while we were hoping to get that many, we were thankful that many were able to show up to work to deliver service. Most of our staff have dealt with parts of this emergency like everyone else in the community, whether it's water or electrical or another issue, and they were able to make it in. We do expect to maintain that staffing level throughout 8 p.m. for the service day today. A couple highlights on today as well that we really focused on is we had a lot of members that we transport on our Metro Access program that are in desperate need of dialysis. Yesterday, we were able to get enough service out to provide 37 dialysis trips for those that had that critical life safety need. Today, we have almost 60 trips for individuals with life-saving dialysis treatments, and those, again, we're focused heavily on. Other things we're working on today is working to help our partners here at the City of Austin to transport people to warming centers, moving people from Palmer to Del Valle. I know it's been one priority, but also any evacuations that we did for the last few days and continue to do today, any requests. We're working with Meals on Wheels to help get meals and water delivered to their homebound clients. And we've been working for several days with Del Seaton Medical Center to transport individual staff, doctors and nurses and others from hotels to the hospital and some of their patients from the hospital back home safely. Throughout the weekend, we'll be operating service on Metro Bus and Metro Rapid routes, as much service as our staffing allows. We do feel cautiously optimistic. Tomorrow's service, we can start at 8 a.m. through 9 p.m., so we're extending hours 1 hour earlier tomorrow to 8 a.m. and 1 hour later to 9 p.m. Then on Saturday and Sunday, service will run from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., again, extended an extra hour in the morning and then at evening. We're going to use all the extra available time over the weekend to really work on our maintenance equipment with the goal of running complete regular service on Monday. We will continue to update every day based on conditions, but those, again, are service that we're expecting to deliver. Again, capmetro.org for specifics to follow up on that. We're going to continue to work and prioritize Emergency Operations Center around the clock and as much support as needed from our partners that were earlier on this call. And the same with our demand response, prioritizing our life safety, life-sustaining trips, and then any sheltered operations from there. Metro Rail, we are working on our signaling and communication system with the full anticipation of running regular red line service on Monday. Again, please follow us on social media or Metro Alerts to get up-to-date real-time information, and capmetro.org, again, for that information. Those are the best places. I'd just like to close by taking a moment and thanking our partners. Richard mentioned they've been doing some escort duty for some of our buses, kind of a convoy that has been critical. I'd like to personally thank all of our first responders, Austin Energy, Austin Water, all of our other critical infrastructure partners. I know how hard you all are working, and including helping us at our facilities, so thank you for that. And then lastly, our Cap Metro staff. Whether it's COVID or this emergency or others, I continue to be in awe with their dedication, just like I know all of my partners here do of their staff. And I just want to thank them publicly again for all the work they are doing, both supporting our partners and providing essential mobility for those in our community that need it. And I'm very proud to work alongside you. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Randy, thank you for that comprehensive update from Capital Metro. We appreciate it. We have about 13 questions from the media. So at this point, we're going to turn things over to our pool reporter for the day, Jennifer Sanders with KXAN. Jennifer, thank you so much for being our pool reporter today. Quick note, we're going to try to get to as many questions as possible, so a reminder to try to keep your answers complete yet succinct. Jennifer, I turn it over to you.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you so much. The first question is from KUT. How many people does Austin Water estimate are without water right now? And what are you recommending for people who do not have water and electricity?
In terms of outage, I don't have an exact number, but it's many tens of thousands. Large segments of our system have very low to no water. And so it's a large part of our customer base that is experiencing these conditions. As Jackie indicated, hopefully Austin Energy will be able to bring more and more customers online with power, and they'll have better resources to use stoves and others to boil water as water service returns. I know Juan is working, very hard to establish water stations and bottled water and other resources. Certainly, we encourage customers to reach out to friends and neighbors and others that may have water service, and that they can maybe fill up jugs or other sources of water for them to boil or to use.
And the other part of that question, what are you recommending for people who don't have water and electricity?
Well, again, as I described, reaching out to friends and neighbors, working with our emergency management office as they stand up water distribution centers, that would be some of the options.
The next question is from KXAN. Did any changes or upgrades at the water plant from the zebra mussel attack of 2019 help in restoring the plant's operations and the power loss this week? If so, what were the changes that directly helped?
No, the zebra mussel controls we put in place are really small chemical systems, and they had nothing to do with impacting our response or the results of this cold weather incident.
The next question is from Sun Radio. Thousands of residents are going to be surprised when their water comes back and their houses might start flooding. Will the city and Austin Water make efforts to alert the public when this happens so residents can prepare? For example, using reverse 911, text alerts, or resident portals?
Yes, we will be coordinating with the Austin Water Department, and we'll be using not only reverse 911, but other social medias to make sure that we communicate and prepare everybody ahead of that as best as we can.
I would add to that water service, may be restored suddenly in areas as reservoirs are filling up and water service is being restored. Customers need to prepare for that, and they can take steps now. One of the things that they can do is check all of their faucets and make sure that they're turned off so that when the water service starts up again, that we're not seeing a lot of water loss or unexpected water flow. Customers need to know where their water turnoff is. If they have a home, there's a water turnoff valve at their meter, and they need to know where that is and how to operate that. That's something that every homeowner should understand and know how to do. As the fire chief said, we need to take opportunities to also know where our landlords are, what their numbers are, if you live in an apartment, or a renter, where we can call and get help from our landlords if we see a water leak or water break at our place of business or our home. So I think there are important steps that can be taken now in preparation for restoring water service.
The next question is from Univision. Can you provide an update of the number of residents whose power has been restored?
Yes, thank you for that question. Currently, we have restored up to almost 92% of our customers, and currently we're seeing just over 42,000 customers who are waiting to be restored. And we're working through that process. We have crews on the ground. We have folks in our dispatch center monitoring all of our equipment to make sure that we're doing that safely.
The next question is from Fox 7. What is the city doing to help the elderly residents in the RBJ building?
Yeah, sorry, I had a little technical difficulties here. We are working with the Austin Public Health and the Austin Fire Department to assess the situation in that facility, and we're working with them to see what we can do to provide any assistance that we can, and in an effort so that they can stay where they're at. And we'll be working with them to see what other services we can facilitate.
The next question is from the Associated Press. We saw reports yesterday of hospitals evacuating patients due to low water pressure. Can you provide an update on which hospitals and how many patients have been affected and the city's efforts in this regard?
We're coordinating that with our Medical Emergency Operations Center, which includes all of the hospitals, our public health, and our fire and EMS agencies. And we're working to resolve those issues within those hospitals. I don't have the specific details at this point in time, but I can provide that information after this interview.
Thank you, and I believe all stations would like that. We appreciate that. The next question is from the Austin Chronicle. Has Austin Energy received any indication that from ERCOT that the utility may need to shut down circuits again? If that doesn't happen, can you give an estimate on how long it will take for 100% of customers to have power back on?
At this time, we do not have an indication that ERCOT will be asking us to reduce our load on the ERCOT system. We continue to monitor that, and we're working diligently to bring customers back online. As I talked about earlier in my comments, we have people on the ground. They're working with our dispatch crews so that we can do this in a controlled and methodical manner. We have to be very careful that we don't have circuits that are energized where we have crews working and inadvertently create hazardous situations for them. This is a matter of safety, essential safety, and making sure that we're doing this in a controlled fashion. So just like we had to bring circuits down controlled, we have to bring circuits back up controlled. As we're doing that, we're identifying additional hazards or situations that weren't known when the system wasn't energized because they weren't creating problems. And so we may have to sectionalize and go through this in a more granular manner in order to make sure that we don't overload circuits. And so as we work through this process, right now, I wish I could tell you and give you that estimate, but there are certain things that can help us. For those of the people that have power right now, continue to limit your use. Keep your thermostats at 68 degrees or lower. Only use those devices and things that you really need to use. And then for our customers that have been without power, one of the problems that we see as we're trying to energize circuits is a phenomenon called cold load pickup. So when the power goes out, there are certain things that have been left on. Your thermostat may be set at a higher level. Your dishwasher may have been in the middle of a cycle. You may have lights on or other devices. And so when the circuit is restored and power is returned to your home, there is a requirement, an instantaneous requirement for a lot of energy to flow. And that can cause problems for us and trip circuits back out. So if you can, and if you can do so safely, minimize those impacts by lowering your thermostat and shutting off appliances, turning off lights. And you might want to leave one light on so that you know when the power has been restored. I can tell you, our crews are going to work. They're going to continue to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And hopefully within the next, several days, we will be able to have power restored to all of our customers. There are going to be some outliers. These weather conditions, the icing, the impacts to vegetation, all of that has to be taken into account. But we're not stopping. We're not going to quit until every home has their power restored, until every business has their power restored.
Thank you. The next question is from Austonia. Councilmember Allison Alter wrote in an email update earlier this afternoon that the boil water notice, quote, is a precautionary action, end quote, and that, quote, Austin Water has not detected contaminants in the water they are providing, end quote. How likely is it that the water is contaminated, and what needs to happen for the order to be lifted?
Well, we don't know what's in the water. Whenever you have a low pressure event, there is a risk, albeit small, that groundwater or other sources could have gotten into the system. So it's required and appropriate for us to issue a boil water notice. So even though the risk is low and we don't know of any particular source of contamination, it's very important that customers boil their water before consuming it, either cooking or drinking or teeth brushing. So although the risk is low, it's not zero, and we really want customers to boil the water and not get complacent. In terms of clearing the system, as I indicated in my opening remarks, really 2 steps. The first step is stabilizing pressures, making sure our system has adequate pressures above 20 psi. Once we demonstrate that we have sustained pressures returned, we'll take bacteriological samples, we'll sample the water, take it to our lab, test it, and if those tests come back clear, we'll be able to have the water certified safe for drinking again.
This next question from KVUE, what are the challenges you all are facing to restore water now that the treatment plants are running?
The challenge is it has to be done in a methodical, step-by-step basis. We simply can't turn on big parts of the system and it's all back to normal. We know that there are tens of thousands of leaks. Customers, as the fire department indicated, they have responded to thousands upon thousands of burst pipes and other leaks. So those systems have to be repaired. Those systems have to be turned off at the private locations, and we're given time for that to happen. The other part is there are known leaks and unknown leaks in our system. With those cold temperatures, our infrastructure systems are not built for cold weather that is sustained in single digits. So as freezing temperatures take place, as ground shifts under frozen conditions, it can rupture lines. And if it ruptures big lines, they can leak millions of gallons of water. And so we have to bring the system up step by step and locate any of those major leaks so we can isolate them and repair them. If we try to bring it up too rapidly, all the water will leak out again. And, we just don't want that to happen. On Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, when this peaked out, we were losing 325 million gallons of water at our peak. That is an incredible amount of water, nothing I've ever seen before at that rate. And so that's what we're managing, is to not return to that state of affairs where 100 million gallons of water could leak out of our system in one night.
Jennifer, just wanted to do a quick time check. We have 5 minutes left for questions. 5 minutes.
The next question, were rolling blackouts ever really implemented? People had no idea that they would be without power for 3 days. We're not out of the woods yet. Does the city have a plan for better communication with residents?
So as the situation progressed on Sunday evening and into Monday morning, what ERCOT saw was a significant decline in the overall power supply for the statewide grid. At the same time, with cold temperatures, the load remained, or the demand on the system remained high. They could not let the supply of electricity come below the demand that was on the system. And they immediately started asking all of us that are connected to ERCOT to start reducing our loads based on our load requirement share. When they did that in a very quick fashion. And we, as a utility, have to designate and plan for emergencies. We have circuits that we've identified that are available to reduce load when such conditions occur so that ERCOT can save the overall electric grid. If they didn't take these actions, the grid would go black. Power across the entire state within the ERCOT footprint would go down. Everybody would be without power. The measures that would be required to start the system back up are tremendous. They're complex. It's not a matter of days. It's a matter of weeks. And it would be much more difficult to do what we've been able to do overnight and into today to turn lights back on and get homes energized. So when that happened, and it happened so quickly, we maxed out on all of the circuits that we had available to us to initiate rotating outages. So there was nothing left to turn off. We would have had to tap into critical load circuits. Critical load circuits include things like hospitals, fire stations, control centers, 911 operations, things that are critical to the operations of our community. And so once we got to that point, we had no room to take a circuit out and allow another circuit to come back on. The sustained conditions of that forced us to reach out to customers as we continued to get directives to reduce load even further. We worked with our partners, and they helped us by reducing our load. And we had to stay there until the system stabilized and ERCOT allowed us to start restoring power to our customers. That's the process that we are currently in. As we restore these circuits, it continues to give us this headway. And if another event is called, because it's important to look at the weather conditions and what is happening on the entire system, we will be better positioned as long as we're not required to exceed the number of circuits we have available for rotating outages.
Jackie, just a quick reminder, we have time for one more quick question. We do have a hard stop at 3 o'clock. There's a meeting coming up that our folks have to get to. One last question, and then we'll wrap with the city manager.
People are desperate for a timeline on when their water will be restored. Can you give any kind of estimate on a timeline for water restoration, days or weeks? Is there an outage map with those restoration times?
It's going to be a multi-day process to restore pressure and service and then clear the system for use. As Jackie indicated, it's really difficult to give precise timelines for portions of our system. We don't know what we don't know, and we don't know where leaks are. We don't know how bad those leaks are going to be. We don't know how long some of them are going to take to fix. Every hour that goes by, we have more knowledge and we're able to better forecast how systems are coming up. Right now, we consider all of our systems, we have 3 major pressure zones, central, north, and south. They're all rated critical. And we want to bring those up into yellow and green zones as we work to bring these systems and correct them. We really just don't know right now. Customers that don't have water, it's better to plan for worse conditions, days without water, rather than hours. And we would encourage customers to take whatever steps they can to try to work through a multi-day outage and ultimately return to normal service.
Are there specific areas of focus that have been without water for 24 hours that you all are addressing, and where should these people go for updates?
Our website and media releases, these kind of updates will be areas that will be providing information. Our priority is our central pressure district, which serves the core of the city, a good part of East Austin and areas south of the river. Everything is built on top of the central district, and we're working to establish and improve the central district, and it's a large district. There'll be phases to that. And within that, all hospital systems are the #1 priority. Our goal is to get the hospital systems operational in the central district and then be working in hospital systems outside of that. You know, that would include other treatment facilities. They mentioned like dialysis is very sensitive to water. We're working to get dialysis centers going. That's the #1 goal, is to get these core healthcare systems up and running and running reliably and sustainably.
Thank you so very much, Jennifer, for those questions, and Director Mazzaros for taking our last question. With that, we need to quickly wrap things up. I turn things over to City Manager Kronk, who's at the Emergency Operations Center. Spencer?
Thank you, Alicia. And I know you're tired, and I know you're frustrated, and you want certainty about some of the things that will be coming back online. We know that the information that we provided you today did not provide that level of certainty, but we commit to giving you as much information as we have at the time, given the situation. This is a multi-day complex crisis that our community is in, and we need to continue to help our most vulnerable, to make sure that we're looking after ourselves and each other. neighbors helping neighbors, doing what they can. You have an apparatus of emergency management resources that are working around the clock to make sure that we are addressing these critical needs. But we do continue to ask for your patience. And with that, I'll close.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. A reminder for up to date on winter weather response information. Please follow us, austintexas.gov/weatherinfo. That is austintexas.gov/weatherinfo. In Spanish, it is austintexas.gov info climática, austintexas.gov/info climática. Once again, thank you for joining us today. That concludes our news conference.
All right, you've been watching Officials with the City of Austin providing an update. Again, a lot of information there, very little specific information that a lot of you still want to know. Primarily, when's my water going to be back on? Greg Mazzaros with Austin Water said they don't know yet what they don't know, and that's the issue. He said this is going to be a multi-day event, not a multi-hour event. If you don't have water, no specific answer to when you're going to get that water back. They don't know when you're going to get that water back, but they say they will provide as much information as they get. Austin Energy saying that as of now, they have not received any directive from ERCOT as to another rolling or blackout or whatever you want to call what we've been dealing with here in this area. No directive from them to cut back on power right now. Austin Energy reporting under 50,000 customers without power currently. That's going down by the hour. Hopefully that will stay. Encore still with several thousand as well. Of course, they serve Taylor, Round Rock, Pflugerville, and Georgetown. Bluebonnet saying no rotating outages right now, so that's good news. They say could be more down the road, but currently there are none. Per Dallas, 8,800 outages as of this hour, affecting several thousand people there. The weather. Let's talk about the weather, shall we? Because we do have good news with Hunter Williams as it concerns our forecast and the rest of the day. I see the radar. There's still some snow on there, but this is ending, right?
We do still have some snow that we're tracking, but this is the final round, and by this evening, this will all move out. So that will be our last round of wintry precipitation. But still, Brian, we have a hard freeze warning in effect for tonight and tomorrow morning. So precipitation is going to move out, but we do still have a couple of very cold mornings ahead of us. We'll get to that in a second. But let's start with the radar. For the Austin area, much of Travis County points to the north. A lot of this snow has begun to taper off, at least for the time being, with the heaviest activity down to the south. With that being said, still we're watching some lighter returns with some light flurries across the hill country, but by far the heaviest snow and the most widespread snow, that's now down to the south. So let's zoom in here. From just south of San Marcos down into Caldwell County, say around the Luling area, still that's some light to moderate snow there, extending into parts of Fayette County. In that pink there, you may even get into a little bit of sleet or some mixed precipitation. But let's back out the view. This is actually a pretty substantial band of snow. This goes all the way back to Del Rio. Del Rio actually set their one-day daily record snowfall total there with upwards of 9 inches of snow. And you see the way that this is lined up, and it's going to continue to taper off by this evening. So this is our advisory and warning situation. In the pink for Gillespie and Blanco, that's a winter storm warning. In this purple color, that's a winter weather advisory. Both of those will be allowed to expire at 6 p.m. this evening. And that is when we're expecting most of our precipitation to kind of wind down. So here's Thursday at 5 o'clock. At that point, especially for our southern and southeastern areas, still we could be hanging on to a little bit of snow, but after about 8 or 9, I think that's pretty much it as far as the precipitation is concerned. However, as I said earlier, still we need to brace for some more cold weather. So this is just in from the National Weather Service. A hard freeze warning that's been issued from 9 p.m. Thursday through 10 a.m. Friday. We're tracking lows down to the teens and low 20s again. So about 18 degrees tomorrow morning in Austin, as cold as about 14 or 15 for the coldest spots across the hill country. Otherwise, we're looking at low 20s for our southeasternmost areas. Here's our 7-day forecast, though. We have that hard freeze for Friday morning. The afternoon, though, 39, we finally get a little bit of separation above the freezing point. Hopefully that paired with some of the sunshine can help to thaw some of the snow out. 22 degrees, below freezing again Saturday morning, but the afternoon around 50. Then not a freeze for Sunday morning with a high around 60, briefly a bit cooler on Monday. But then by Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday afternoon, Brian, we have 66, then up to 70 degrees. So it's been a brutal stretch of cold weather, but by this weekend and next week, we do have warmer weather. It's on the way. Back to you.
It's good to see those temperatures increasing. Hunter, thank you very much for that update. Of course, we are again waiting for Texas Governor Greg Abbott to give his daily briefing about issues statewide. We're going to join that live as soon as it starts. It was supposed to start at the top of the hour at 3 o'clock. They're running a little bit behind, so as soon as they take the podium, we'll join you once again live here on KVUE to bring that to you live. For now, we're going to get back to regular programming. Again, we'll be back when the governor speaks. It could be within the next several minutes.
Having food, my Cheez-Its, my Quest bars. And the back is, where it goes down. That's where we take long naps.
Some heroes have stepped up in the midst of the crisis. The owners of this food truck, Boombox Taco, cooked 2,400 tacos and gave them out for free to Houston families who haven't had a hot meal in days.
If I was in that situation, I wish someone would do the same for me.